Welcome to part 2 of Protecting Your Vegetables, in which I construct a prototype frame following Castle Hill Garden's uploaded video. My first task on this glorious spring-like morning is to mark up a lath, known as a rod, with the width of the selected raised bed. I know I built it to be 4 feet wide, but that is just a name. It's the old question: how long is a piece of string? Runner beans, aqua dulce, was sown on the 10th of February, a full moon, protected hopefully with the coffee grounds against mice. I require to adapt this design to fit my raised beds. Castle Hill Gardens use these frames direct into the ground, therefore dimensions are not that critical. Also, accuracy of mitres is not important, but for my frames that sit in the support tube, it is crucial that the frames sit neat and square into these support tubes. What is acceptable waste and what is unacceptable waste? Dimensions are all based on the size of a brick. So positioning these short ends of timber to where the joist would be, you can see that the first two, that's acceptable waste, but the two behind is not. So we would expect to find a lot of short ends of about this size on a building site, which are free and we can use. Therefore dimensions are not that critical. Also, accuracy of mitres is not important, but for my frames that sit in the support tube, it is crucial that the frames sit neat and square into these support tubes. Here we have 2 vertical side pieces exactly the same size. These are then placed on the door using the lath that we used early this morning and set to the true width of the beds. A piece of scrap wood is then set equidistant between the 2 vertical pieces. Mitres are cut at the end of the diagonal members. As a general rule, mitres are always cut first before the lengths. We then screw the apexes together at the top. If your mitres are not true, don't worry, here's a tip that puts it right. Before screwing together, drill a 3/8 hole in the top of the mitre. Insert a short piece of 3/8 dowel into this hole, which is hammered in and cut flush. When you screw the 2 pieces together, now you will be amazed how strong the joint is and secure. A short piece of scrap is marked. This will be screwed into place later after we have secured the apex. The square is then placed on the apex and the leg is then adjusted and fastened to the door. Apex secured, we can now put this short cross piece onto the top of the apex. We now release all the restraining screws that were holding it to the battens and the door. We now put the measuring stick on the apex frame, using the square to make sure that it's level, and gradually bring it down till the marks meet the edge of the apex frame, and make a mark. Here we've constructed a very solid apex frame, and it really is solid. Place a scrap piece of timber the same size as the legs, place the top left hand corner on the mark, spin it round till the bottom right hand corner is on the mark, and then scribe and it into the shape of a notch. We now strip everything down into its component parts, including the apex. It's then back into the shed where we transfer all these marks right round the piece of timber. Here I'm just marking out the waste so there's no confusion. All marked out, we can now cut what's called the bird's mouths. Now reassemble all the parts together. Take the frame out and place on top of the door. One leg firmly to the door, then adjusting the angle on the apex and screwing that into the door, making it secure. A scrap piece of timber can then be placed on and marked the angle just roughly. It is not critical in the size of this member. We can then take back to the shed and cut them. And when cut, screwed to the apex frame. We now have one completed frame, all a la Castle Hill Gardens, without the points for putting into the ground. I can now measure the length, or the true length, of the apex piece, which turned out to be 860 millimeters. Did a trig calculation which came out at 862. That's roughly about 1/8 of an inch on each end, so that 1/4 of an inch would have stopped it going into the pipes. The bottom portion of the vertical pieces was rounded off so that the plastic tube would fit comfortably over the ends of the feet. This frame was made using a decent bit of kit, but I just want to recap and go through making these joints by hand and some tips in doing so. Not everyone has a radial arm saw, so I'll give some demonstrations of cutting miters by hand. A Western saw cuts on the forward stroke, so when you normally start you tip the blade down, but to cut an accurate mitre it's best to tip it the other way. But you'll need to start, because of this forward cut, you've got to start on the flat and then gradually bring the saw down. I'll move hand away and then you can see it. There we go. So you can see it, and you gradually look at the line and you keep it with it. And then when you write down I need to put my hand back. And then when you're down far enough, you just saw it in the normal way and let that saw cut that you first did, that diagonal saw cut, act as a guide. Just push the saw nice and gentle, don't rush it or anything like that. Let the saw do the work and it will follow that first cut, and then you should have a decent mitre. Now the Eastern saws, the Japanese, that cuts on the backward stroke. The British saw costs £7 and the Japanese saw costs £30, but you may consider it worthwhile to pay that extra. It does take a bit of getting used to cutting on the backward stroke though, but once you've done that, it's like driving a left-handed car. You know, you soon get used to it after a bit. If you want to flash out for a bit of more expensive kit, you can always get a chop saw. You can use a mitre block, but I don't like to use them because you're cutting blind, you can't see the lines. You're depending upon that slot in the mitre block, so to me, I don't use them. My next video will be making the 4 remaining frames, which will be quicker because this was the prototype, so I now have all the sizes and shapes. Please comment. If you've not already done so, subscribe. I'd like to know if anybody's had a go at making one, and till next time, bye.